skepticism is a useful tool, but they'll say, well, why don't we have a skeleton? You know, why don't we have something? And there are several reasons for that. One is because the government isn't going to release the skeletons because it would be a disaster. As that same government official told me, we have to keep it as a legend. If we ever tried to pull the trigger on the Endangered Species Act, we can't, because you have to be able to count the population, and they are too intelligent and elusive to do so. And then we would end up with a bunch of primates out in the woods with guns hunting larger primates, and it would not go well. And so the government is well served by keeping it as a legend. The chaotic effect of the invocation of the Endangered Species Act over something like that would be catastrophic. It'd be terrible. And so good governance and good management is to keep it as a legend.
There have been quite a few reports that I've gotten over the years of Bigfoot. I have gotten one, maybe two in the last few years that I thought were worth taking a closer look at. I've heard of people thinking that are mistaking bears for Sasquatch. I've never gotten any reports of Bigfoot or Sasquatch in my professional career that I determined was actually a bear. And that has happened in other cases in other parts of the Pacific Northwest.
I've heard questions from many people out there, skeptics, about where are the bones, where are the bodies, why haven't we found one? My major's forestry. I've got my degree in forestry. If anybody knows anything about decomp, animals, ants, whatever, things decompose so quickly. Small animals, they eat the bone for the calcium in the marrow. Okay, everything is consumed on an animal when it dies in the woods. 7 to 10 days, every trace is gone. Every trace is gone of any kind of an animal.
So it just speaks to the unlikelihood of finding remains of animals out in nature. Nature has a way of recycling those resources in a very efficient and very prompt manner.
Western culture wants a body. Biologists want a body. They want bones. They want a hair sample. All these sorts of physical, hard evidences beyond tracks. I think personally what it'll take is contact. It'll take contact. It'll take someone who is willing to create a relationship with them and ask them to come forward. But I don't think that's going to happen. They hide for a reason. And not only do they hide for a reason, I'm on the fence about the fact that they only show themselves to people that they want to show themselves to. Most
of the time, if I get hair, it is usually hog hair, horse hair, deer, something of that nature. I personally have never received actual hair that could possibly be Bigfoot. A lot of footprints, handprints. My favorite investigation was back in 2001 at the water reclamation plant in the St. Johns River management area. They had a lot of activity going on there. I went out there and investigations as far as sightings, vocalizations. I had received a phone call saying, hey, we've got these handprints on the window that happened when this thing was looking in the window one night. My pictures were the handprints, and in some cases you could actually see the hair where it pressed against the window. The handprint isn't the full hand. It was looking in the window, so it was kind of like had bent fingers, but I got good palm and thumbs and the tips of the fingers. In some cases, it wasn't just it was like he moved his hands, okay? Or he leaned against the window so you could see the hair impressions on the window. This is my favorite. This is obviously skin with hair impressions on it. The handprints and the imprints I received, a lot of oil in them. This is Debbie, who was my witness. She's pointing to way up here where the handprints were. And the handprints were roughly 8 feet because it moved around and everything. She worked graveyard, She came in from the back warehouse of the shop into the reception area, and there it was looking at the computer screen, watching the Windows little logo thingy going on it. And then when she walked in and saw it, and it saw her movement, then it kind of stood up and then took off.
One of my principles that I work with is the Hukin-Sullivan principle, that you have to spend 200 hours feet on the ground in a reasonably good area to have an encounter of any kind, or possibly a sighting. Jim Hukin was a state of Oregon biologist. Jack Sullivan was a science teacher. These guys knew their stuff, and they were very active from the late 60s up through the early 90s. One claimed 12 sightings, the other one claimed 13. But they all had the same characteristics of sightings. They were very brief, they were very clear, they knew exactly what they're seeing, and they did not have a time to raise their cameras up, or if they did get their camera up, it was too dark to take a decent picture. And they refused to engage in blob squatch. Blob squatching is these goofy pictures that people have of Bigfoot that are shadows and branches waving and all kinds of stuff.
We just got glimpses every once in a while, and people want to know why we didn't get a picture, and that might be one of the questions that's going to get asked, and I get asked that all the time. And we really tried to get pictures, but these things seemed to outfox us. We underestimated what they were, underestimated them thoroughly. They move inhumanly fast. The one I saw was shooting down through the trees to two other ones that were making sounds down here. We feel like it was an adolescent and a mother. That's what we think, a family of three.
This event that I'm going to talk about now has to do with a nest that I found while I was at work with two other people. And this looked just like a bird's nest. It was on a hillside that was about 60 to 70%. And what built this nest had opposable thumbs. But when animals make beds, they slide everything out to the bare soil. So you've got this mound of debris around it, but you have a clear down to mineral soil. But what I found here was tree branches that were woven together. These branches were broken off tree, 2, 3 trees, whatever, in the area, and they used that as their building material. And everything was intertwined all the way around. So I knew what built this had thumbs, could have been a hunter. I found hairs that were anywhere from 1 inch to about 2 inches long. These hairs had multicoloration to them. They were light at the bottom, and then they got brown, blonde, and then there were a few that were dark. So it was multicolored. And I showed them to my partners, and they were just flabbergasted. They were just it was out of this world what we were looking at.
In the Mountain National Forest, there are billions, literally billions of broken branches. They're caused by all kinds of stuff. So occasionally you may find a trunk or something of that nature that's been twisted and braided by a Bigfoot, probably as a territorial sign.
Oh, yeah. Whoa.
Yeah,
That is, whoa.
So these were brought here. I mean, you can see how they're all placed. Bring that up.
This is incredible.
Here we go, look at this.
It's due north.
Yeah. When people say they see tree structures, they see symbols that mean something that is made with hands and order. I mean, it takes a lot more for me. It takes this to say, you know, there's nothing here that would cause 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 logs all going the same direction, and then this fencing pattern.
Uh-huh.
You know, what if it was not due north? What if it was slightly away from due north to northwest to northeast, but it's exactly due north on the 0?
Comes to a point, like it is pointing to something.
You know, these have been brought here.
Right, no, it's very obvious they've been brought. Like, this isn't pushed over. I don't think this is pushed over.
No.
It's not, see? There's no root system here. This is not pushed over, it's been placed.
So who knows what exists around this area? I mean, it takes time.
This one is actually intricately interwoven with this one. You have to take steps to get to this.
You know, you just kind of feel like something
You can't help but
thinks
feel
this
like
is important.
this, yeah.
Or they did think it was important to build this. I don't think hunters built the blind here. I don't think hunters would go through this.
Honestly, I think what we're dealing with is a relic hominid of some sort. We've had Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal, slightly different subspecies, if you will, of hominid.
Bigfoot is going to be part of our genus. And it's gonna scare some people. It's gonna excite other people. I'm gonna be excited. And I don't think anybody can really predict what's gonna happen. It's gonna be a free-for-all. It's gonna be a little unnerving, probably.
I didn't know what they were when I first got into this. I would read the books and they would say, you know, we all branched off from the same. And there's different branches as the generations progress. But to me, we're all the same. And they're the purest human on this earth yet. And what I mean by that is that they're living the life as they were given it. They are living as they have from the very beginning. So they are the purest form of human left on this earth.
Their survival depends on us not knowing about them. We bring disease, we bring violence, we bring lack of understanding, we bring lack of compassion. And then I'm on the fence about, can we actually hurt them? I don't think we can hurt them per se, but I do think we can destroy their environment. Duh, we're destroying our own environment, let alone theirs.
Frankly, I feel their discovery is inevitable. There's no question, as a living being, they're also a dying being. And whether they die by age or disease or injury, they're going to die one time or another. And I think it's inevitable, extremely rare, but inevitable, we will find a body. As difficult it is to find a living Bigfoot, somewhere out there, there's a body.
I know a lot of people think it comes down to the spotted owl situation we had back in the 90s. So if there's this undiscovered, primate living in the woods now, and okay, now they say, yeah, it's here. Well, how much land do we have to set aside for him? So does that affect logging? Is that going to affect, recreational areas? Is that going to affect hunting grounds? What's the grand scheme that it's going to affect? It very well could be a cover-up. It very well could be.
I think they know that more than we do. I don't think they want to put money into it. As far as they're concerned, it's something out there, and it's not going to, as long as they don't show it attention, it's not going to affect the economic portion of government and states and cities, because that's their main concern. Not as much science. It's how it's going to affect the economy of their particular area.
So then let's say that Bigfoot was discovered in the state, and what was determined is that there's an existing population of them here, and that the animal is an indigenous animal in Oregon. In that case, jurisdiction for management of the animal would fall with Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. The animal would be listed under the protected animals list through the Oregon administrative rules. It's possible that some other agency or some other entity or maybe an individual could petition with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for that animal to be included in the federal endangered species list, in which case a significant amount of protections would be afforded the animal.
If there's an undocumented humanoid living in North America, and obviously with the thousands of encounters that's occurred since prehistory, that's well established that there is. I mean, it means that they would dedicate and exhaust all available resources to find out as much information as possible about that undocumented humanoid. It's by definition a threat to national security. They would use all resources and exhaust all of them to find out everything they possibly could about it. I have no doubt whatsoever that they've done that. I can tell you that no Bigfoot researcher that I know of has been contacted by a government agent that wanted to know the information that they had or what they knew, which tells me that the information that they already have is much greater than anything that we know.
I do know that the U.S. government has knowledge of the Sasquatch. I ended up